Welcome to another tutorial of Profland YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to discuss different questions that were tested in non-calc letter 0606 to October-November 2025. So this is paper one. So we're going to look at different questions that were tested there. And here, because of this is just a screenshot of some of the questions that are in the original paper. So I did not use the original paper here because of displaying the original paper to this channel. So I've just taken screenshots. If you like to maybe go through different questions in this particular paper, you can be able to download it from the main website and other website where you can be able to access it. If you are new to Profland YouTube channel, consider subscribing so that anytime I'm going to upload more tutorials, you'll be notified. So let's dive in so that we can be able to see. In the event you are given a question like this, you are told that write down the amplitude and period of this wave. So something that you really need to put into consideration is that this part here represents the amplitude. So the amplitude is going to be 3, and these 2 here means that there are going to be 2 cycles in one complete. There will be 2 complete cycles in 360, because a cosine wave makes a complete cycle in 360 degrees. But when you have 2 here, it means 2 cycles. 2 complete waves are going to fit into 360. So in order to get the period, therefore it will be 360 divided by 2, and that is going to be 180. So that is the period, and that is going to be our amplitude that we have there. So in order to sketch that, because we have -1 here, it means that the midline is going to be shifted 1 step down from the x-axis. So meaning that the graph is going to look like this. And in the event you like to sketch the graph, you need to remember that the amplitude must be 3. So you can see from here 1, 2, 3, maximum point and minimum point will be that. And the midline is going to be in the line y is equals to -1. So basically that's what we're going to do at that point. Let's move to question 2. In question 2, you are told that find the set of values for k for which this line meets this curve at 2 distinct points. So the first thing that you really need to do whenever you are given a question like this is by taking the 2 equations, you equate them because they are going to intersect. So if lines are going to intersect, what does that mean? When they intersect, you can equate the 2 equations. Once you equate the 2 equations, you'll be in position to form a quadratic equation. Then now, since we are told that they meet at 2 distinct points, that means that when you calculate the discriminant should be greater than 0. In the event you are having a scenario whereby the 2 lines are meeting at 2 distinct points, then it means that the discriminant must be greater than 0. That is exactly what I did here. So I went ahead to work out the discriminant, and then I say now the discriminant should be greater than 0. Remember, this represents the value of b. A here is 1 and c is 3. So if you try to find the discriminant, you are going to form an inequality because must be greater than 0. So the inequality that will form here will be a quadratic inequality, which means that if you solve this quadratic inequality, first you treat it as a quadratic equation, you solve to get the critical points. So once you have the critical points, because this point will be 2 minus 2 root 3, and the other one will be, let me just correct this. This is minus here, minus 2 root 3, and this is going to be greater than 2 plus 2 root 3 less than 2. Let me just correct that. Minus 2 root 3. So this is minus. I think I might have yeah, so don't confuse there. It should be 2 minus 2 root 3 plus 2 root 3. So that's going to be the solution or the range of values for x for which this has two distinct roots. The next part is solving logarithmic equations. At the moment you are given a logarithmic equation like this, what you need to remember is that there is something we call change of base, right? So because we have log x base 2 and then the other end here we have log 2 base x, then we can be able to represent this as a reciprocal. So meaning that we can write this as log x base 2 minus 4 5 1 over log x base 2, so that we can be able to change this to be having the same base like this one. Then you can go ahead and let log x base 2 be equals to m. Then you can see here, if you multiply by m all through, we are going to form a quadratic equation. Now in this quadratic equation, if we try to solve it by PSF, we can be able to factorize, and factorizing that we shall get x plus m into x minus 5, m plus 1, m minus 5 is equals to 0. So x is going to, in this case, m is going to be equals to minus 1 and m is equals to 5. Then now you can be able to say log is equals to this, and log x base 2 is equals to 5. Then if you express them in index notation, this becomes our final answers. So in the event you are given a question to do with logarithms, remember you can be able to follow those steps so that you can be able to score all your marks. And if you are new to ProfLearn YouTube channel, consider subscribing so that anytime I'll be working more tutorials, the second part of this video, you will be notified immediately. Let's dive in so that we can be able to continue with the next bit of the questions that we have here. The next question that you need to understand how to work them out is question to do with exponentials. How do you solve exponential questions? Now if you look at this, we were given e is to, in this question we were given e is to x squared minus 3, 25 e is to 7 minus x squared. So the first thing I did is that I splitted the exponent with the powers. So I said e is to x squared times e is to negative 3. So because since these are having the same base, then remember we usually combine by adding the powers, and that is, it will give us whatever we have here. And also splitted this. Then I decided to multiply this on the other side and also multiply this on this other side. So I ended up having 2x squared and 25 e is to 10, right? Because if you multiply e is to x squared times e is to x squared, it's like you are adding the powers, and that's going to be 2x squared, e is to 2x squared. Then if you divide by e is to 10, divide by e is to 10, then you can see now we shall have e is to 2x squared minus 10, because these are divided, so the power should be subtracted, and then we shall say that is equals to 25. Then at that given point, I'm going to introduce natural log both sides so that I can get rid of e exponent. Then if you introduce natural log, you are going to have these two guys cancelling out. You remain with the power, the way it is here, and then we shall now say that's ln of 25. And if you make x the subject of the formula, find the square root both sides, this becomes our final answer at that given point. If you have gotten value and you've learned out, you can be able to solve different questions like these ones. Just remember to give this video a thumbs up, and also you can recommend this video to your friend, encourage them to subscribe and join Proflan YouTube channel. Let's look at question 4. Question 4 was about functions. This topic is about functions. It was an area about functions, so which means that explain why the graph does not represent a function. This, if you draw a vertical line, this is vertical line test. If it cuts the graph twice, then that is not function, that is a many-to-many, which is called a mapping. Yeah, that is a mapping. So this line, this graph that we're given here, it actually failed the vertical line test, and in that way we shall say this is not a function. But this one, you can see whenever you want to know whether a function is a one-to-one function, you use horizontal line test. If it's a one-to-one function, if you draw as many as horizontal lines, they will cut that graph only once. But you see, for this one, if you draw the horizontal line, it's going to cut the graph more than once, so that is going to many-to-one function. So it does not have inverse. It does not have inverse. But this one, even if you draw horizontal lines like that, will cut the graph only once, and that is a one-to-one function, so it has inverse. This is not a one-to function, so this is a many-to-one function, and this one is a one-to-one function but does not have own inverse, because if we are going to find the inverse, remember the inverse is a reflection on the line y is equals to x. Because of that, you can see now this graph is going to be kind of reflected like that, which means it's not on the inverse does not lie on the same graph. This is the inverse of this function that we were having there, so it's does not have its own inverse. So it's one-to-one function, but it's not own inverse. But this one here, if you reflect this on the line y is equals to x, again you are going to have the inverse lying on the same line, because this point will be reflected down here and this point will be reflected at the top. That's why we are saying it has own inverse. It's one-to-one and its own inverse function. And then we have function to do with domain and range. We have g and f of x here, and then we are told find the value of a so that the domain of f is large as possible. But we were told sine x, f of x is sine x, but it's 30, and we are told sine 30 is a half. Yeah, so which means that if you draw a graph of sine x, it looks like that, and where you have half is this line. So which means that 180 minus 30, you get 150. So this point here will correspond to 150. This point here is what? 150. This is 150. So which means that the range, the domain that ensures the range is more than a half is going to be between 30 and 150. So A is going to be 150 as such. We're also supposed for the domain found in 1, find the range of values of g of f of x. For the domain, find the range. Remember, when x is 30, because first, for you to write g f of x means anywhere you have x in g, you substitute f of x. So if you look at the function the way it was, g f of x is going to be, because f of x, g of x rather, is x minus 1 over 2. G of x is x minus root x minus 1 over 2. So meaning, if you are going to find g f of x, it means that anywhere you have x in this function, you are going to replace with sine x, right? So that means that g f of x is going to become sin x minus a half, which will imply that for us to answer this next question here, for the domain, we're supposed to find the range for the domain in part 1, find the range of the function g f of x. So when x is 30, remember f of x becomes a half, so you shall have a half minus half, which becomes 0. So when x is 30, g f of 30 becomes 0. So the range is going to start from 0 to some maximum value, and the maximum value of the maximum value of sine function here is going to be 1, and that is going to happen maybe around 90 degrees, huh? So which means when we have 1 in this part here, so it will be 1 minus a half, which is going to be a half. So root a half becomes 1 over root 2, so meaning that the domain will range, the range of gf of x will range from 0 all the way to 1 over root 2. So that is exactly what we are going to do at that point. And then you are supposed to determine whether the function g of 2 g squared exists. What does g squared mean? This means g of x. So which means that for this to exist, then the domain, the range of g of x must be inside the domain of g of x. So the function g of 2 means, what does this mean? G of x. Then for g squared to exist, then the range of g must be inside the domain of g. Then which means that the domain of g is x raised greater or equals to a half, which means that the range of g is not contained in the domain of g. The range of g is not contained in the domain of g, because from here you can see the range of g is 1 over root 2. 1 over root 2. That's the range of g. But the domain of g was given as, x must be greater than a half. But this is less than this range of g is less than a half. So since this is not contained within the domain of g, then g squared does not exist. So we shall look at part 2. Just check in the description, there is part 2 of that, guys. See you in the next tutorial. If you are new to Proflan YouTube channel, consider subscribing so that anytime I'm going to upload another tutorial, you'll be notified. See you. Have a great day.